Έτσι έβλεπες τον ποιητή να τρώει και να ερωτεύεται, να βγάζει τα παπούτσια του και να κοιμάται.
My father inherited the family crest, which indicates that the family was of some importance. Most families don't have even a name. And he gave it to me and he said, this is who you were, but it doesn't matter because this is the new world and you have to be yourself. It's true. What I know of my parents, one was born in the United States of Italian immigrants, and my father came to the United States from Germany, and they met. And so I always thought of myself as Italian-German. But on my Italian side, my grandmother's side, they all have Greek names. They came from Naples. My grandmother's name is Greek Egle, which means splendor. And I have uncles called Sophocles and Euripides. And we know that the Greeks settled southern Italy in the 5th century. And Greek is still spoken in that part of Italy. So I surmise that probably I am partly Greek. And then in addition to that, does one feel that probably I can remember previous existences, and they probably bring me back to ancient Greece. But of course there's no proof of that sort of thing. I do know that as a scholar you have to be very rational, but that the breakthroughs in ideas come through irrationality, through meditation, and primarily in sleep. When I sleep, I wake up in the morning and I write, and what I have uncovered while I'm asleep is what I write rationally in my scholarship.
Μοίρα κακή κι αντιδική, τυραννισμένη μοίρα, ποια πάθη από τον έρωτα, ποιες πρικές δεν επήρα. Μοίρα κακή κι αντιδική, τυραννισμένη μοίρα, ποια πάθη από τον έρωτα, ποιες πρικές δεν επήρα.
As a classicist, I had no training in ancient religion. My training was in ancient poetry. My teachers didn't think religion was important, probably because as Christians they thought that classical religion was a false religion. There's been a great disregard of the real nature of classical antiquity. So I knew nothing about Eleusis, and it was only when Gordon Wasson, amateur mycologist and banker, when he proposed that we work together on the Eleusinian mystery, that I paid attention to it. And I can't believe that I produced with him and Albert Hofmann that book. Most of the writing was mine. Hofmann I met only once, and then again at his birthday celebration when he was 100. I met him at a conference in the US earlier, but then I went to Basel for his 100th birthday celebration. And when I got up to speak, he said, "Oh, Carl, is that you?" But with Wasson, I was like a adopted son. I saw him a couple of times a month, visited and stayed the weekend with him. And we would have a wonderful dinner prepared by his housekeeper. And there would always be some, first he'd have a table of correspondence. First, I had to show that the Greeks knew about altered states of consciousness and that they had a religious significance. This was not recognized in classical scholarship. And then I was young and had not had much experience with mystical vision and shamanic experience myself. So I had to find out, were these things possible? Could you orchestrate for a whole group of people on schedule each year what we now would call a journey through the interdimensional barrier to another realm and back again? It seemed like that's what was indicated, but could people do that? And we now know that they can. Imagined that I could walk the streets of ancient Athens again. I never managed to do that. But the most profound experience I had was I got to the point where I realized that I was the creator of the universe. My ancestors would definitely have been initiates. But I've gone on in my scholarship to study other ancient mysteries and mysteries of the later tradition. And I've come to realize that religion always has a psychoactive sacrament at its origin. It can deny it later and use a substitute, surrogate for the sacrament. But the origin of religious experience goes back to our earliest hominid ancestors. And the archaeological evidence suggests that they met in enclosed spaces, caves, of which the hall of initiation at Eleusis, and they experienced the first awareness of the fact that there's something more to their existence than what they thought. They had the first spark of what we call religious cognition. And it's that we want to investigate in the Gaia project as one of the subjects for what we might pursue, the origins of religious cognition, where religion came from before it becomes dogmatized.
Και το Θεό παρακαλεί για να βρέξει μια βροχή, μια σιγανή, για να γεν τα στάρια μας και τα καλαμπόκια μας. Μπάρες, μπάρες τα νερά, μπάρες, μπάρες τα κρασιά.
I don't write poetry. I play music. Usually I play music 3 or 4 hours an afternoon. I play the piano. And for me, it is better than something like yoga or meditation. I enter in another world. I particularly like music that has mathematical perfection, like Bach or Beethoven. In my presentations, I tried to show that poetry in ancient Greece and probably well into the 4th century was not what we consider poetry, where people listen to a poet recite, but it was a celebration in which the audience participated in the experience. So it was emotive. They didn't sit quietly, they partook in the emotion. Much like the image I used was Woodstock, where the people really made a mess of themselves, but they were totally immersed in the music and poetry. The Project Gaia is to be the world center for the renegotiation of the covenant with our planet and all over the planet, where the things that are happening here in Amazonia. These are the places that we want to help. I have suggested that if there is a spiritual dimension, now that we know the cosmos so much better than we did in the medieval period, if there is a spiritual existence, it doesn't seem likely it's on the edge of this ever-expanding cosmos. It's more likely that there are many spiritual existences and they are bound to the matter of whatever piece of planet they find themselves upon, so that the spiritual existence may actually be linked to the continuation of Gaia. The destruction of Gaia would mean the extinction of our spiritual existence.
Όλα έπρεπε να έρθουν καθώς ήρθαν οι ελπίδες και τα ρόδα να μαθήσουν, βαρκούλες να μου φύγουνε τα χρόνια, να φύγουνε να σβήσουν, έτσι όπως χωρίζαμε τα βράδια για πάντα να χαθούνε τόσοι φίλοι.
I know that the structure of this festival of poetry is to send out groups of people everywhere in the neighborhoods in the hopes that you do something beautiful in the neighborhood and it will bring people together and pacify a nation that's suffered a horrible civil war. I can see the artwork in the public square here in Medellin, and I am aware of the urban renewal, which is extraordinary. The city has received an award for its innovation, and amongst the innovations is not to put the urban renewal in the wealthiest sections of the town, but in the poorest. So we went out to look, to ride the escalator, which is a wonderful idea, but that is the poorest section of the town. When people fight so long, as here, new generations are fighting, and they don't even know why they're fighting, except they've always been fighting. I am also aware of the fact that the United States attitude towards drugs, the so-called war on drugs, has exacted a tremendous toll on countries like Colombia, because you cannot have something that is worth so much to poor people if they produce it and sell it and tell them that they can't, because they will. And the war on drugs has totally failed. We need a new attitude, decriminalization, counseling, and an awareness of the sanctity of these substances and how they could. We certainly cannot promote the idea that the Gaia Project will say you come to Eleusis and take an entheogen, but we can promote the idea that we should investigate what the role of these sacred substances has been in the history of humankind.